The Arrowverse is a TV adaptation of the DC Universe that obviously has a lot of major DC characters, although the universe does feel a little incomplete, and every time they introduce a new DC character, it seems like it fills up just a little bit. This season of the Arrowverse, meaning Arrow Season 7, The Flash Season 5, and Season 4 of Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, all introduced a lot of new DC characters that I will go over in this video. Basically, the ranking of this video, the order of this video will go from least to most popular, and it will only include 35 or the 35 most popular DC characters that were introduced this season. So any other DC characters that I either missed or just didn't make it into the list, you could definitely mention them in the comments down below. With that in mind, let's start the actual video. Before I actually start this video, I want to go over a lot of honorable mentions because this video will only be looking at the top 20. So these honorable mentions include Dante, Weather Witch, Menagerie, The Hat, Neuron, Mercy Graves and Otis Graves, Red Dart, Kodiak, Silencer, Ragdoll, Star City Slayer, Cicada, Agent Liberty, Dreamer, Nora Freeze, and Blockbuster. A lot of characters who were introduced in this season. Because of that, a lot of the characters who are just honorable mentions are actually pretty prominent characters in the DC Universe, and some of them are characters who you would think get into the top 20. That being said, the top 20 I think is a pretty solid list that I don't think really need to include these honorable mentions, so I'm just naming them here just because. At number 20 is the Icicle, who debuted in The Flash Season 5, Episode 6. The Icicle in the comics is a Justice Society of America villain who has definitely branched out to the entirety of the DC Universe. He is named Cameron McKent, and he obviously has ice powers. The version in the Arrowverse on The Flash is very different. He is Caitlin Snow's father named Thomas Snow, and he has a shared origin story with Killer Frost. This is very different from the comics, and it means that there are two different characters, because Cameron McKent actually wasn't mentioned on The Flash as a different character, but I'm kind of inflating the two, making them the same person. As the Icicle, this version of him is supposed to be the main one, so he is number 20 on this list. At number 19 is Dr. Destiny, who debuted in The Flash Season 5, Episode 9. This is a DC villain named John D. They changed it to John Deegan for unknown reasons. I honestly don't know why. Maybe John Deegan just sounds like a more realistic name than John D. Anyway, the Elseworlds version is given the Book of Destiny by the Monitor, and he has the ability to change reality at his will, and he was technically the main villain of the Elseworlds crossover. He's a pretty prominent villain in the comics, appearing in multiple animated TV shows, and although I don't think he's ever appeared in a movie, I definitely think he can be the main villain of a movie, as he was the main villain of the entire Arrowverse crossover, so that is why he's at 19 on this list. At number 18 is Miko Queen, who debuted in Arrow Season 7, Episode 1, but we didn't know she was Miko Queen until Arrow Season 7, Episode 8. Miko Queen is a hero in the comics named Red Arrow and sidekick to the Green Arrow, Oliver's half-sister, who is the daughter of Shadow, who was connected to the Ninth Circle for a while until she left and joined Team Arrow, and then later joined the Teen Titans. In the show, she is a villain, like a fully-fledged villain, and leader of the Ninth Circle, who was never called Red Arrow at all, and is kind of responsible, or at least partially responsible, for the creation of the Green Arrow himself. At number 17 is Roger Hayden, aka Psycho Pirate, who debuted in Arrow Season 7, Episode 9 during the Elseworlds crossover. Psycho Pirate is a DC villain who was able to control emotions with the Medusa mask that he has. He later became a character who was very connected to the multiple changes in the multiverse in the DC Comics because he has the ability to be aware of any of those changes. Psycho Pirate had a large role in Crisis on Infinite Earth, so expect him to return for the next crossover, as he was a part of the first major tease that we got for Crisis on Infinite Earths all the way back at the end of Elseworlds. Number 16 is Manchester Black. Manchester Black debuted in Supergirl Season 4, Episode 4, and he is the leader of the Elite and main villain of comic book storyline What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, as well as animated movie that adapted that storyline, Superman vs. the Elite, and he causes all this mayhem with psychic powers. Supergirl's character is very different, as he's black, he doesn't have powers, and has never met his main rival Superman, but I do think he's actually a pretty good version of the character on the show. Number 15 is Godspeed, who debuted in The Flash Season 5, Episode 18. Speedster anti-hero named August Hart, who was Barry Allen's friend who was struck by lightning during the Speed Force storm. He became a sidekick to The Flash, got this awesome new costume, and started going by the name Godspeed, killing criminals, especially speedsters, who got the powers from the Speed Force storm that he did, and used their powers for crime. Godspeed was a villain for the first Flash Rebirth storyline and became a fan-favorite character, mostly because of his costume, and he kind of evolved into just becoming an anti-hero at this point, because he helped the Flash fight Gorilla Grodd later on. Godspeed debuted in The Flash Season 5, Episode 18, and although he looked exactly the same in terms of his costume, he's definitely a poor representation of the character, as he was not only in the future and way past the Flash's time, he also was nowhere near as complex and nowhere near as interesting. Marnovu, aka The Monitor, debuted in Supergirl Season 4, Episode 8. The Monitor is the Monitor of the multiverse and is the brother of the Anti-Monitor, the main villain of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Monitor isn't the most famous DC character, but he certainly is one of the most important, especially when it comes to the various crises the DC Universe has had to deal with over the years, especially the first one, which is the one that the crossover is adapting. The Monitor is a little bit different in the fact that in the comics he's white, while in the Arrowverse he is black, but I don't think that matters at all, as the Arrowverse version of the Monitor is honestly one of my favorite characters in the entire universe, or I guess the multiverse. I love his presence, I love his music, and I think the actor does a great job in the role, and I think that the Monitor is just generally a great character, and honestly a little bit better than how he is in the comics, or at least how he was in the comics before the Arrowverse adapted him. Number 13 is Amazo, who debuted in The Flash Season 5, Episode 9, fighting what is essentially the Arrowverse's version of the Justice League. Amazo is a robot created by Anthony Ivo who has the ability to copy anybody else's powers. He's kind of the opposite as the Monitor, as he's not the most important DC character, but he has definitely become a very popular villain, appearing in a lot of animated shows and movies over the years. Number 12 is Clayface, who was confirmed to exist in Arrow Season 7, Episode 9, but Basil Carlo is Basil Carlo, I don't really know, is a famous Batman villain who was referenced and confirmed to exist during the Elseworlds crossover. Out of all the Batman villains who were referenced, he is definitely the least famous, as he's never actually been in a live-action movie. I'll obviously get to the rest really soon, but for now, Clayface is at number 12. Number 11 is Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, debuting in The Flash Season 5, Episode 9. Batwoman is the cousin of Bruce Wayne and kind of vigilante in her own right, although she's definitely very, very heavily inspired by Batman. Kate Kane is a superhero named Batwoman who operates in Gotham City and a member of the Bat family. She's going to get her own spin-off show that the trailer a lot of people hated. I definitely agree on that, and we'll have to wait and see how it turns out, but she debuted in Elseworlds, and as such will be obviously in this video, and she's a pretty popular character, popular enough to get her own TV show, landing her at number 11 on this list. Starting the top 10 list is Jon Stewart, who was confirmed to exist in Arrow Season 7, Episode 19. Season 7 of Arrow confirmed that John Diggle is essentially the Jon Stewart of Earth 1 of the Arrowverse. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go watch Arrow Season 7, Episode 19, or maybe go watch my review of the episode where I'm pretty sure I explained it. Although he goes by John Diggle still, and he also appeared a long time ago and doesn't actually have a Green Lantern ring, I'm still counting him here because of the fact that he is now confirmed to be basically the Jon Stewart of Earth 1, and that's a huge deal, but it's pretty insane that he's only at number 10, but I do think there are actually 9 more famous DC characters who are either confirmed to exist or actually debuted in the Arrowverse this season. So as a note, basically the entirety of the top 10 list are Batman villains who were confirmed to exist. Numbers 9 through 4 are all characters who are Batman villains who were confirmed to exist through Arrow Season 7, Episode 9, where they go to Arkham Asylum. Obviously in Arkham Asylum there's going to be a lot of references to Batman villains, but I did not expect them to confirm that 7 villains, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 villains, do exist in this universe. There are a couple of other villains who were actually referenced, but not confirmed. These are villains where Oliver and Diggle were walking past a corridor, passing a couple inmates' cells, and they're all name tagged with Batman villains' names, a couple cases, a couple canisters, things like that, and also a gun that were all tagged with a Batman villain's name. So numbers 9 through 4 on this list, just like Clayface, are just going to be that, starting with number 9 with Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow, who's actually the first character in this video to have a major role in an actual successful live-action movie, making him a lot more popular than anyone else so far. Scarecrow was obviously confirmed to exist in Elseworlds, and he's definitely a very, very famous and prominent member of the DC Universe, landing him at number 9. Number 8 is Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, who is a very, very popular Batman villain who also had a major role in a live-action movie. Although not a loved one, it's definitely a pretty famous one, and she definitely is a very, very famous character. Poison Ivy is definitely an extremely popular Batman villain and DC character, and it's just a little bit more popular, in my opinion, than Scarecrow. Number 7 is Victor Freeze, aka Mr. Freeze, who obviously was confirmed to exist in Arrow Season 7, Episode 9. Mr. Freeze is one of the most popular Batman villains ever who appeared in the same movie as Poison Ivy, and although that movie is generally hated, everybody knows that Mr. Freeze was the main villain, and everybody could basically quote that movie through Mr. Freeze. He became a lot more popular as a villain after the Batman animated series, who incorporated his wife and made him a lot more complex as a character, and his wife also debuted in that same episode in the Arrowverse, she was one of the honorable mentions. But Mr. Freeze is number 7 on the list, more popular than Poison Ivy, more popular than Scarecrow, but not as popular as number 6 through 1 on this list. Number 6 is Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, who was again confirmed to exist in Arrow Season 7, Episode 9. Edward Nygma is without a doubt one of the most famous Batman villains and one of the most famous villains overall. One of the main villains of a live-action movie in Batman Forever, which is a movie that is not very liked. I hate it, but he definitely is pretty famous, not only because of that, but because of the Batman TV show from the 60s, all the animated shows that he's been in, Gotham. He's a very beloved character, and he has had a major role in all 4 Arkham video games, creating all the collectibles. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that the Riddler is a very, very famous DC character, and the fact that he now basically exists in the Arrowverse is pretty insane, along with all of these other characters. Number 5 is Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, who obviously was confirmed to exist during Elseworlds. The Penguin is an incredibly popular Batman villain who has the main villain role in a beloved live-action movie, Batman Returns, a major beloved role in Gotham, a role in a lot of animated shows and movies, and the supposed main villain role in the upcoming Matt Reeves-directed, starring Robert Pattinson Batman movie coming in 2021 called The Batman. The Penguin is without a doubt one of the most famous Batman villains ever, and is one of the most famous DC characters as well. The final Batman villain, and also the most famous Batman villain confirmed to exist in the Arrowverse, is Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, who is obviously a very, very famous character. The villain slash anti-hero slash actual hero Catwoman was popular enough to warrant her own movie, which despite being hated, the fact that it is even made means she is very popular. She's also appeared in Batman Returns and The Dark Knight Rises, probably basically every single Batman animated TV show, as well as a couple animated movies, and just like the Penguin, is going to have a villainous role in the upcoming 2021 The Batman movie. She's definitely, I think, the most famous Batman villain who was referenced in Arkham Asylum, and I would say she's probably the second most famous Batman villain overall, obviously after the Joker. Number 3 is Lois Lane, debuting the episode before all these Batman villains were referenced in the first part of Elseworlds as opposed to the second. Quite possibly the most famous comic book love interest of all time, and when I say quite possibly, I mean definitely. Lois Lane has appeared in every Superman movie, I'm pretty sure, as well as other DC movies like Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, and basically every DC animated TV show as well. She debuted for the first time in the first part of Elseworlds as Clark Kent's girlfriend, who was also mentioned a few times in the first 3 seasons of Supergirl before finally debuting in Season 4. Lois Lane is basically tied with number 2 on this list, but ultimately I decided that she's a little bit less famous than number 2, who is... Number 2 is Lex Luthor, debuting in Supergirl Season 4, Episode 15. Maybe the most infamous supervillain of all time, along with the Joker, and at this point kind of Thanos as well. Lex Luthor is the villain of multiple Superman movies and appearing in, I'm pretty sure, every single one of them, except for Man of Steel, and has appeared in most DC animated shows as well. Lex Luthor has been mentioned in the past on Supergirl, and has even appeared as a kid in a flashback, but Supergirl Season 14 is where we saw Lex Luthor, like the real one, the adult one, for the first time, and although it was only for 3 episodes, I think John Cryer and also the writers did a pretty great job of bringing this character to the small screen, like he's been brought to the small screen in the past, like on Smallville. Number 1 is Batman, who was confirmed to exist in Arrow Season 7, Episode 9. By far the biggest DC character who was confirmed to exist in the Arrowverse in the last season is Batman, and quite possibly the biggest DC character ever, quite possibly the biggest superhero ever is Batman. Although Bruce Wayne was confirmed to exist last season in Arrow Season 6, Episode 2, we didn't get a confirmation he is the Batman, or if Batman even exists, until Arrow Season 7, Episode 9. The Arrowverse has become a lot more complete as a universe because of the cornerstone of the universe, one of the cornerstones of the universe, now exists, the Batman, and can possibly appear, although he hasn't appeared yet, and I don't think he ever will, or at least it doesn't seem like he will anytime soon. I think the fact that he exists at all, and we know he is out there, is enough for now, because now the DC Universe on TV, the Arrowverse, feels a lot more complete. So those are the 20 biggest DC characters who either debuted in the Arrowverse this season or were confirmed to exist. What do you think about all these characters? Which characters do you think the Arrowverse is still missing? And which one of these characters is your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.